meanings. Okay. So, Chaturtham Dandakam. Kalpaka Hari Om. You're still on a call, Kalpaka? Okay. Shweta Namaskaram Hari Om. Okay. So we will. So let me just chant this once and then we'll look at the meaning. Suruchira Navaratna Pitha Sthite Susthite Ratna Padmasane Ratna Simhasane Shankha Padma Dvayopashrite Vishrute Tatra Vignesha Durgavatukshetra Palairyute Matta Matanga Kanyasa Mohanvite Manjula Manjula, it should be Manjula. Manjula Menakadyangana Manite Bhairavairashtabhirveshtite Devi Vamadibhis Shakti Sevite Dhatri Lakshmyadi Shaktyai Sanyute Matrika Mandalair Mandite Yakshagandharva Siddhangana Mandalair Archite Bhairavi Samvrute Panchabanatmike Panchabanena Ratyacha Sambhavite. Okay. So he's starting to explain the people who are surrounding Devi. Okay. Or where it starts with explaining. So first three Dandakas describe Devi's physical form. Right? Remember, that's what we saw. The first three Dandakas describe Devi's physical form from the Sheshadi Pada Paryantam, from the head, top of the head to the legs, feet. Now Chaturtham Dandakam, he is starting to describe how she is seated and who are all around her. All the people who are around her. Okay. So starts with saying Suruchira Navaratna Pitha Sthite Susthite. Suruchira Navaratna Pitha. Navaratna Pitha is the 9 gemmed Pitha, or the her asana. Navasana is made up of Navaratna, 9 precious stones. There are different 9 precious gems, emerald, Marakata, ruby, Manikyam, and so on and so forth. Right? There are 9 precious gems. The asana is made up of 9 precious gems. In fact, this asana is also, there are this it is the reference is made in Khadgamala Stotram, in the Sahasrakshara Vidya. It is referred to as Navasana Sthite, Nava Asana Sthite. She is sitting in a 9 Nava Asana. She is sitting in a Nava Asana, which means Nava has 2 meanings in Sanskritam, and it's very interesting. Right? Even Navaratri, when they say Navaratri, 2 meanings they say. One is 9 nights, the other is it is rejuvenated night, new night. Nava also means new, right, in Sanskritam. So the 9 has the word, I'm sure the reason why Nava is used for both, because after 9 there is a rejuvenation. If you look at the number system also, it is 0 to 9 and then it's 0 again, 0 to 9 and 10 to 19 and 20 to 29, so on and so forth. So there is after the 9th one, there is a rejuvenation that happens. And also 9, we may have seen from very young, we know some of these things, right, about the number 9. It is said to be a complete number. Any number you add to 9, the output, the sum of the 2 numbers of the output will always yield a 9. Right? So like, for example, 9, then 9 into 2 is 18, 1 plus 8 is 9, 9 into 3 is 27, 2 plus 7 is 9, 9 into 4 is 36, 6 plus 3 is 9, and so on and so forth. So 9 is said to be a complete number, which means whatever you do with the number 9, it will result in a 9. There is no loss of information, in a way, you look at it, right? So whatever is Nava, it is always new, always as though new. Puranas are also known as Pura iti Nava. Pura api Nava, which means it is old yet it is new. Purana. So the Nava is, in that sense, whenever there is a reference to marriage, like Navasana Sthite, she's sitting in a Navasana, means 9 gemmed or Navaratna Pitha, 9 gemmed Pitha, or also means that she is always ever new. There is no aging. There is no, it's not like a radioactive material. She doesn't have a half-life period. So it does not, this particular entity, this particular presence that we're talking about is ever new. Whenever 1500 years ago, 2000 years ago, somebody is praying to Devi, the experience that individual, Mahakavi Kalidasa, the experience he is having of Devi, 5000 years ago, Durvasa would have had the same experience of Devi. Parashurama would have had the same experience of Devi. Today we can have the same experience of Devi. So she is Nava, new, always new, ever new. Suruchira. Suruchira. Ruchira means bright, and um, um, uh, she is shining. Shining Navaratna. Suruchira Navaratna. Shining 9 jewels or 9 gems. Pitha Sthite. She is established. She is this ever new presence that is established. It is established, yet it is not static. You understand? This is all, or we may say this is ever present, or static. It is ever present but ever new, which means it does not. So with every moment, it is renewing itself. It is renewing itself with every moment. With every moment, Shakti or Devi is presenting herself anew. It is our mind that tells that this is old. Our mind is telling that, oh, this is the same Devi that I saw 15 minutes ago. See, that is why a lot of times when we go to a temple or we go and have an experience of some very surreal, some kind of a surreal experience we have of some place or some temple, some monastery or some sthala we go to, if you go 3 times to that place, 5 times to that place, you will not have the same experience. The people come from far and wide to come and see Kashi Vishwanatha. And a touch of Kashi Vishwanatha, they're like, oh my God, I got Sparsha Darshanam, I touched Kashi Vishwanatha. But people who are there daily, they go regularly touch, no? Where is that excitement and joy? So the person who's so excited of the first touch of Kashi Vishwanatha, you go and station him in that temple and tell him, I give you a job here near the Sanctum Sanctorum. He will be exhilarated at the start, but give him 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, you will see he will have complaints. So much crowd, people are not this, people that, everything will be outward looking. The whole focus that was that Kashi Vishwanatha and me and that bond and connection and all that, it will slowly fade away. Why? It is not Nava, it is not new. Right? Although that Vishwanatha there is giving ever new experiences to every individual who's coming. The same Vishwanatha there, the same Kamakshi. So what is happening? The mind is coming in between. The mind is creating an image, and it creates an image and it will make it old. She is sthite there, susthite. Susthite means she is established in a very gentle way, in a very approachable way. Susthita is a word term that is used to indicate, usually it's used for women, to indicate that women don't know the ways of the world. Like the men know the ways of the world. They know how to strategize, how to plan, how to execute, how to work, with the world. Women are supposed to, okay, so women are supposed to be veguli அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. There is a word in Tamil, veguli. Veguli means naive. They are not so very well versed of the ways of the world, and they trust people very easily. They trust the world very easily. It's easy to approach them. It's easy to access them. This is a term that's used to indicate susthita, somebody who's susthita. So Devi here is shown as though she is sitting in a Nava Ratna Pitha, like an empress, Maharagni, yet she is accessible. She is very accessible. Then Ratna Padmasane, Ratna Simhasane, Shankha Padma Dvayopashrite Vishrute. Ratna Padmasane. So here Ratna means a very glorious, exquisite. Here Ratna doesn't necessarily mean a precious. It is not a gem, but something that is very precious. A precious lotus, Ratna Padma Asane, a lotus seat, which is very precious, very exquisite. She's sitting on that. Ratna Simhasane, an exquisite throne. She's sitting in an exquisite throne. She's sitting on an exquisite throne. Shankha Padma Dvayo Pashrite. Shankha Nidhi and Padma Nidhi. You may have heard of these terms, these names. Shankha Nidhi and Padma Nidhi are two forms of Nidhi Devatas. Nidhi means wealth. The lord of Nidhi is Kubera. So there are two Devatas who are Shankha Nidhi and Padma Nidhi. And there are temples where these two Devis or Devatas are on either sides of Devi. Shankhanidhi, Padmanidhi. And Shankhanidhi, one has the Padmanidhi, for example, holds a lotus. Shankhanidhi holds a conch. That's why the name Shankhanidhi, Padmanidhi. What it means is Upashrite. She is the one who's sitting on this Nava Padmasana and Nava Ratna Padmasana and Ratna Simhasana. She is Upashrite. She is worshipped by who? Worshipped by Shankhanidhi and Padmanidhi, which means the guardians of wealth are worshipping her, which means wealth is at her disposal. Nidhi, treasure, wealth, all kinds of prosperity and wealth is at her disposal. We saw something similar in a previous Dandaka, if you remember, where Lakshmi is also serving at Devi's feet. Remember, the previous Dandaka we saw Lakshmi, Tarunya Lakshmi Grihitangri. Lakshmi is holding her feet, Padma Supadme, Padme Supadme, the Grihitangri, Padme Supadme. So in the same way, Shankhanidhi, Padmanidhi are two guardians of wealth, and they are Upashrite, they are worshipping Devi. And she is who? Vishrute. Who's Vishrute? Matangi or Lalita Tripura Sundari. This Devi, Ambal, is Vishrute. Vishrute means she is well known. Shruti. Shrunoti. The word means to listen, hear, right? Shruti means to hear. From that comes Vishrute, means well heard of. She is well heard of or well known. And even the Vedas talk about it. Even the scriptures talk about Devi. Vishrute. Then comes Tatra Vigneshat Durga Vatukshetra Palairyute. Tatra Vignesha Durga Vatukshetra Palairyute. Tatra Vignesha Durga. There, Tatra means there. There, Vignesha Durga Vatu Kshetra Pala. So these are four people who are surrounding her and guarding her. Okay? They are guarding her. Who are these four people? Durga, Vignesha, which is Ganesha, then Durga, then Vatu. Vatu is Vatuka Bhairava. So I've heard of this term. Bhairava, there are different kinds of Bhairavas, Ashta Bhairavas. But then not of that, there's another Bhairava called as Vatuka Bhairava, and he is a very Raudra form of Bhairava. It's also called as Batuka Bhairava in some references. Batuka or Vatuka Bhairava. And he's seen naked with a dog and skull and all of that. This Bhairava is quite fierce to look at. Vatuka Bhairava. So he is there. Then you have Durga. Durga means what? Durga itself, the word means Durg, means what? Fort. So this Durg or Durga is there, who's like a fort. Ganesha. Ganesha or Vignesha. Vignesha means the lord of all obstacles. Nirvignam. He is the lord of all obstacles, means he can cause obstacles and he is the one to remove or stop obstacles. So he is there. Vignesha is there. Durga is there. Vatuka Bhairava is there, the fierce Bhairava. And Kshetrapala is there. Kshetrapala is who? Kshetrapalas are known as guardian deities. Kshetrapalaka. Kshetra means area or a place or a village or whatever, an area. And they are palakas of the Kshetra. So Kshetrapalaka. So there are 4 people who surround Devi. After the Shankhanidhi, Padmanidhi, there are 4 of these people who are surrounding Devi. Tatra Vignesha Durgavatu Kshetra Palairyute. Okay. Then who is there? Then you have Matta Matanga Kanya Samuhanvite. Matta Matanga. Matta means excited, very joyful. Matta Matanga. Matanga are here again. We may think this whole shloka is Matanga Kanya Manasasmarami. The whole shloka is on Matangi. Whole thing is on Shyamala Dandakam, on Raja Shyamala. The Dandakas are on Raja Shyamala. So who is this Matanga Kanya who is surrounding? Matanga Kanya Samuhanvite. They are the Kanya, Matanga Kanya are in groups are surrounding Devi. So here the reference is of, now we have to see Devi in this as Lalita Tripura Sundari. So he is having the visualization of the Bindu of Lalita Tripura Sundari sitting there. So this Raja Shyamala or Matangi who came to him as he went to Kali. If you remember, Kali Dasa, he went to Kali. But he then had the visualization of the dhyana of Matangi, Raja Shyamala. But then he also saw her in various different forms. Remember, through the whole Dandakas, he's experienced her as different forms of Devi. And he is experiencing her as Lalita Tripura Sundari, who is the central deity. Jaya Janani Sudha Samudrantarudyan Manidvipa. So the one who is sitting in the center of the Manidvipa, Lalita Tripura Sundari, Mahapara Parabhattarika. So she is the primary central Bindu Devi. And if you see Matangi as an aspect who is surrounding her. So now he is having an experience of looking at Devi, Lalita Tripura Sundari sitting in the center, and there are various different deities and forces that are surrounding her. In one of the layers is Matanga Kanya. So Matangi in that aspect is the Mantrini of Lalita Tripura Sundari. If you remember, in Lalita Sahasranamam also she appears, right? Raja Matangi, or how does she come? Mantrini. She is the Mantrini Devi. So she is Mantrini Devi or the minister, the chief minister. Who's the other person on the other side of Lalita Tripura Sundari? One is Matangi or Rajashyamala. The other one is Varahi. Right? Varahi Devi. So in Sri Vidya Parampara, usually you go through each of these Devis to get to Lalita Tripura Sundari, or each of these Devis themselves can. So sometimes what may happen is you go to you go to Matangi, she may guide you to Varahi, and Varahi may guide you to Lalita Tripura Sundari. Or if you go directly to Varahi, she may guide you to Matangi, and then you go to Lalita Tripura Sundari. Or you go to Matangi herself, and everything ends there, and she is Lalita Tripura Sundari. Or you go to Varahi, she is Lalita Tripura Sundari. So there are different sadhana paddhatis that exist in different Sri Vidya Paramparas. The way you approach the Tantric Paramparas, there are different in the ways that you approach these. So she is here referred to as Matanga Kanya, or the aspect of Matangi that is surrounding Devi. Right? So Matta Matanga Kanya Samuhanvite. Anvite is to surround as groups, Samuha, as groups. Okay. Then comes Manjula Menakangana Menakadyangana Manite. Manjula and Menaka Adi. Angana are women. Okay. Bhrungangana Gita. You remember that another verse that was there earlier. Sandri Bhavan, Bhrungangana Gita Sandri Bhavan, Mandra Tantri Sware Susware Bhasware. So Angana means women. Here it is Menaka Adi Angana. Manjula Menaka Adi Angana, which means the celestial, as they call as celestial women, they are respecting her, which means she is adored by them, all the celestials. Okay. Then Bhairavair Bhishtita Bhairavair Ashtabhir Veshtite. Bhairavair Ashtabhir Veshtite. So there are Ashta Bhairavas, as I said, and Veshtite means surrounded again. She is surrounded by Ashta Bhairava. Then Devi Vamadibhi Shaktibhi Sevite. Then, O Devi, you are surrounded by Vamadibhi Shaktibhi Sevite. You are surrounded, you are worshipped by Sevite. Worshipped by who? Vamadibhi Shaktibhi. There are Vamadi Shakti. There are three kinds of Shakti. Triguna Shakti. Trishakti. Mahakali, Mahasaraswati, Mahalakshmi. They are also called as Vama, Jeshtha, Raudri. There are three names that are there for the Trishakti, which represents Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Okay. So these are, Prakriti starts from there, right? Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. The Trigunas is where the Prakriti begins. So you are surrounded by Bhairavas, and then you are surrounded by the Vamadibhi Shakti. Vama Shakti, Cheshtha Shakti, Raudri Shakti, or Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. You are surrounded by these three. And then Dhatri Lakshmyadi Shakyashtakai Sanyute. So Dhatri Lakshmi Adi. So Dhatri, in this case, we can Dhatri Lakshmi Adi. So Dhatri Lakshmi is one of the Lakshmis, and there are Ashta Lakshmis. Ashtakaihi Sanyute. Shakti Ashtakaihi Sanyute. Again, you are surrounded by Ashta Lakshmis. The 8 Lakshmis that are there, the Ashta Lakshmis, you are surrounded by the Ashta Lakshmi. Okay. Then Matruka Mandalair Mandite. So there are Sapta Matrikas. Brahmi, Varahi, and so on and so forth. Saptamatrakas, Mandalair Mandite. So the mandala of the Saptamatrakas, you are Mandite, you are adorned by. So the mandala itself is an ornament on you. There are Saptamatrakas, or you can look at the 51 Matrakas also. They are also called as Matrakas. Right? 51, which is the 16 vowels and the 35 consonants. Correct? 16 vowels and the 35 consonants, 51 matrakas. This is what Kali also wears as skulls on her neck as a necklace, the 51 matrakas. Matrakas means little mother. Each sound, a, e, u, r, l, these sounds are called as little mothers or matrakas. Matra. Because there is a measure, matra, sparshast, kaunteya, shishno, sukhadukhada. So matra, sparshast, which it's measure, it is a measure. Matrika is a certain measure of sound here in this case. So 51 matrikas or the sapta matrikas, these are the 7 forms of Devi that again appear in the Sri Vidya Parampara. So she is Mandalaihi Mandite, which means Matrika Mandalaihi. Mandite. Mandite means adorned or an ornament. What is an ornament? The Saptamatrikas are an ornament on you. Then Yaksha Gandharva Siddhangana Mandalair Archite. Yaksha Gandharva Siddha Angana. Again, Angana appears. Women. Which women? Yakshangana, the Yaksha women. Gandharvangana, Gandharva women. Siddhangana, Siddha women. These are different species or different beings. Like Devatas are being, Asuras are being, Rakshasas, Kinnaras, Daityas. We are Manavas. Right? Human beings are Manava. We are just one being, one class of beings. There are other beings, Yaksha Gana, Gandharva Gana, Siddha Gana. So these are all Gana, mean these are different class of beings. Which is why Ganesha is called Ganadhipati. Gana Adhipati, which means he is the Adhipati of all the Ganas. Gananaam Tvam Ganapati Gum, Ganapati. Gananaam Tvam. So of all the Ganas, you are the Ganapati. You are the Pati or the Lord of all the Ganas. So here, these kinds of Ganas, the wives or the women, Mandalair Archite, they are forming these mandalas or groups around you and they are offering their worship to you. Mandalair Archite. Okay, then you have just give me 1 minute. What is So Bhairavi, where is that? Bhairavi Sambrute. So now Bhairavi is surrounding you. Again, Bhairavi is surrounding you. And then Pancha Banatmike, Pancha Banena Ratyacha Sambhavite. So Pancha Banatmike. Who is Pancha Banatmike? The Kamadeva. Because he is the one who has the arrows. He has those arrows that he uses to create Kama. So the one who has those arrows is Panchabanatmike. And he is also it is, and the Panchabana that Devi holds. So she is also Panchabanatmike because she holds 5 arrows. The Pancha Tanmatra Sayaka, Lalita Sahasranama. Pancha Tanmatra Sayaka. So she holds those 5 flowery arrows. And she is Sambhavite, honored by who? Panchabanena Ratyacha. Which means by Panchabanaha. Panchabanaha here means Kamadeva himself. So you look at those 5 arrows as Kamadeva himself. Those 5 arrows are nothing but Kamadeva. It symbolically represents Kamadeva. So that is why Kamadeva is also called as Panchabanaha, the 5 arrows. So Panchabanena, by the Panchabana and by Ratya, Ratihi. Ratihi is who? Rati is Kamadeva's wife. Rati. So Panchabanena and by Rati cha means both. Kamadeva and Rati both Sambhavite, honoring you. You are honored by both of them. Okay. So these are the 11 verses where it talks about the various deities and the various beings that surround Devi. Okay. Now one thing that you need, it will be interesting to note here is, yes, Mama?
The Panchabanaku வந்து significance உண்டா? The 5, what are the, like,
these are the 5 tanmatras, what is known as the tanmatras. So Devi uses, Kamadeva uses to create these, he uses these 5 to create kama or desire. Devi uses these 5 pancha tanmatras to create the manifest world. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. These are the 5 tanmatras. And also, you can also consider them as the pancha bhutas in their elemental form, in the tanmatra form. So in Tattva Bodha, for example, there is a description of this process called Panchikrita. Panchikrita is a process where the tanmatras, which means the elemental forms of Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apaha, Prithvi, all of these 5 in their original form, the Tanmatra form, which means they have not yet become Pancha Mahabhuta. They have not become the Pancha Bhutas as we know of, but they are in their elemental form. What they do is, there is a process called Panchikrita, Panchikarana. Panchikarana is the process where from each Tanmatra or the each elemental form, 50% remains as it is. The remaining 50% breaks into 4 parts. And each of those are distributed to the other tanmatras. For example, space as an element, pure element, 50% will remain a space. The other 50% will break into 4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. And that, which means essentially, yeah, so overall it will be like 12.5%, right? 25, 25, 25, but overall is 12.5%. That, so now space has got, it's broken into 4 parts, and these 4 parts will go to the other 4, and space will now take 1 from the other 4. I just visualize this.
புரியுது கேள்விப்பட்டிருக்கேன் நான்.
What of this,
Like,
right?
when from unmanifest to manifest வரும்போது they have a, it gets split into this like this and take each one
takes, so each element retains 50% of its composition, its original elemental nature, and takes 12.5% of the remaining, right? And then this forms total 100. So now space will have 50% of space and 12.5% of earth, water, air, and fire. Likewise, fire will have 50% of fire and then components of the others. Now, when this occurs, what results is the Panchamahabhuta, which is why we say every element has an element of the other. So you take water, for example, has some amount of space. There is space in the between the molecules of water. There is some amount of heat, which is why it flows. There is some amount of air because there is movement. And there is some amount of
even in the space வரும்போது கூட when in the space since there's no actual fire element and the space வரும்போது அந்த friction that causes the heat, the
heat.
fire element, the portion of fire element in that causes the heat and the fire.
Exactly. Because the fire element is existing in the Panchabhuta, in that Panchabhuta or the Bhuta of space, because fire is existing, it is able to exhibit fire during friction. So this is the process called Panchikarana, and this is represented by the Pancha Tanmatras. The original elemental forms are represented by the Pancha Tanmatra Sayaka of Devi or Panchabana, right? And why there is where is a correlation to Kamadeva is because of Kamadeva, because of desire, this whole process of manifestation occurs. It's a very interesting, how do you say, it's a probably a poetic or a mythological representation of the idea to show that there is a fundamental desire element that is there, which makes the Pancha Tanmatras that are standing out as 5 separate to become this Pancha Mahabhuta and the creation, therefore. So hence he is also called as Panchabanaha, because he uses desire as an element to fire these arrows into manifestation. So Panchabanena, and his wife is Rati, who is supposed to be extremely beautiful, very pleasing. So he as a male himself is extremely beautiful and is very enticing. His wife is likewise. And so both of them worship you, O mother. Okay, both of them worship you. Now till this 11th verse you will see this. I will just give you a glimpse of a slide that I'm making to show how these devatas are surrounding Devi, and then maybe in the next session we will look at that, because it's interesting to see how this this thing is represented, right? And we'll do a little bit of deep dive into that. See, look at this. Okay, so you have Devi, you have Shankhanidhi, Padmanidhi, Vignesha, Durga, Vatu, Kshetrapalaryute, Manjula, Matang, and then you have Manjula, Menaka, then the different Manjula, Menakadyan, Manjula, Menakadyangana, the other women also, you dot. Then you have Matangi, Matanga Kanya Samuhanvite. Then you have the Bhairavi, the Ashta Bhairavi, the 8 Bhairavas. Then you have the Vama, Jeshtha, Raudri, etc. And so on and so forth. So I'm building this. Next session we'll look at this. But it gives us a sense of how he has perceived this whole mandala, if you will, right? This is actually like a mandala. He's had this vision of this mandala and he is describing this to us. How these devatas are organized around Devi, right? So we'll look at that. And also it occurred why possibly some of these, I'll possibly just mention this and we'll close today and we'll pick up next week. See, although Devi is considered as Susthite, somebody who is very easy to access, despite that there are Bhairavis and Durga and all of these fierce people standing outside. So it is like saying, even though Devi is very easy to access, but the paraphernalia that she has is difficult to break. So just a food for thought. I mean, just think about it. How this is usually, that is the way when we are accessing the highest ultimate truth. The truth is very simple, but there are so many complications around it, but yet we have to break through it. We have to break through. Like Ramana is saying, Chumma, it seems very simple, but it's not. And the same way, even with Mahatmas, you will notice this. Like, for example, again, Ramana's example, he was sitting there very peacefully, silently. It's very easy to access him. He had no problems. He had no qualms. Who comes to him, who talks to him, who, nothing. He has no distinction, differentiation, nothing. But you'll see there is a whole set of people around him who will not allow you. He said, appointment vanginela, office la sonnela, did you talk to these guys? Did you, when did you, how many? No, all of this whole organization that will come and stand up. Why? Because he is susthita. Just because he is very easy to access, just because he is very naive, just because he opens himself to everybody, nature automatically creates a certain paraphernalia around, so that only the deserving, only the really seeking, intensely seeking individual is able to cut through all that and get there. Right?
I'm able to visualize what you're saying, Guruji. Like in the Vedantic terms, though we say Aham Brahmasmi, Brahman, Nane da Brahman, solve easy, but to reach there, there are a lot of hurdles. Like my own, the Trigunas are there, my desires are there. நீங்க சுத்தி அந்த வட்டம் போட்ட மாதிரி நம்மளை சுத்தி நிறைய வட்டம் இருக்கு இல்லையா? we have ego இருக்கு, எல்லாம் நம்ம என்னெல்லாம் சொல்றோமோ எல்லாமே இருக்கு. அதான் அதுல விடுபட்டு போனாதான் அந்த பிரம்மனை அடையிற மாதிரி. பகவான் தேவி இஸ் ஈஸிலி அக்சசபிள். வி நோ இட் ஷி இஸ் தேர். பட் அக்சஸ் இவாளெல்லாம் தாண்டி போனோம்னா இவாள் அந்த அந்த நீங்க சொன்ன அந்த தீவிர முமுட்சுத்துவம் அது இருந்தாதான் யூ கேன் ரீச். வெரி நைஸ், வெரி நைஸ் குருஜி. ரொம்ப நல்லா கேக்குறேன்.
That has to be extremely strong intent. And one other thing I'll say before we close is, it also shows that we also should be susthita. We are also, these all circles, like Mama is saying, these circles we have built around ourselves. Right? I have different layers and layers that I have built around. So can I become susthita? Can I become simple? Can I just surrender? Can I become childlike? Right? So that is the this is how you know, which is why I felt it's nice to just lay it out visually, because then you see this and then it kind of starts. Look at Kalidasa, the way he is probably brought in, the layer by layer he's brought in those people, the deities and all of that, and then it gives a sense that, oh, so then there are so many people surrounding her. The sphere of influence, right? Kalpaka is saying sphere of influence. It's also sphere of influence, and also these represent different tendencies within us. So as we go in, we also working through that, right?
Shackles. We have built shackles around us.
Yeah. So we'll look at that next week. I'll probably have this slide completed by then, and then we will look at that in detail. All right. Okay. Om कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. नमस्काराय समर्पयामि, जगदम्बिकायै इति समर्पयामि, सद्गुरुनाथाय इति समर्पयामि. हरि ओम तत्सद्गुरुभ्यो नमः. हरि ओम, हरि ओम, हरि ओम.
Hari Om, Guruji.
Namaskaram.
Hari Om.
Thank you. Hari Om.